Good morning as we're sitting here at LTV on this beautiful morning, indeed a beautiful morning, Friday the 13th.
Ah,
Oh,
going back to my bunker.
Friday the 13th here, year 2024, here with the Hello Hello Show. And my name is Haim Mizrahi, continuing with the tradition of public access and the tradition of the Hello Hello Show that's been on the air since 1980. Of course, not to fail to mention the contribution by Fraser Dougherty, Francis Ann, and of course the likes of you out there making it your business to enhance and fortify this wonderful concept called public access. Here with us, Steve Rahm this morning. Steve, thank you so much for coming. I know that first of all, I want to commend you for reintroducing yourself to art, to creating art. That's one thing, and want to congratulate you for selling some art. How much you owe me out of that, we'll discuss later.
There's always a
Yes,
catch.
okay, you
There's
started paying your
just
debt. You got me coffee and muffin. That's a
you're like
lot.
counting money and you go mine, mine, Himes, mine, mine,
Yes,
Himes, mine,
and,
mine,
and then
Himes.
yeah, um, and that reestablished level of enthusiasm on your behalf is very refreshing. I want you to know it doesn't go unnoticed.
Thank you.
And the kind of work that you make, of course, is I always told you about how is saddened I am by the fact that you're not as prolific and as active as you should be. But regardless, that's
Well,
all
you would
behind
have
us.
criticized Michelangelo for not doing the ceiling in 2 days.
Yeah, well, but
He
anyway,
doesn't exactly roll out the hand of
I
God.
think that the good news that you finding yourself now, you communicating with me as an artist, as an active artist, communicate with another one. The kind of questions you ask, the kind of comments, the kind of messages and images you send me. So that's refreshing to say the least. So first of all, really nice to have you here. So what's up? What is the sense behind this
Um,
new unfoldingness?
I think that you reach a certain conclusion that you want to be back in the art field. How do I explain it? It's invigorating. It's better than taking Prozac. It's better than taking anything. Um, I have always had the process for me to create is that I've always seen the painting in my head, go to the canvas, sort of fills itself in, and it's done. This time, it's not working that way. Um, it's getting done or built as I keep painting and I keep seeing new things, brand new palettes, something I've never done before, and it's exciting. I mean, I can't count the number of paintings that I've done over the decades. Uh, some I have left, a lot I've sold, and this is something new and refreshing. And to find something that's new and refreshing at any stage of your life, and that, as I said, invigorates you and wants you to go, there is no such thing. And I think this sums it up as just going into the studio, taking a look at the painting to see where it's at, and not finding yourself at least 45 minutes later, even if it's 4 in the morning and you got up to do your usual thing at 4 o'clock in the morning, and you go in, you take a look, and an hour later, um, you've been painting. So this is something that's a challenge for me, something that's exciting for me, something that's very different from what I've done, and I made the decision. And I think that people should know that Haim and I have a conversation going, an ongoing
Oh yeah.
conversation going all the time that in sometimes minute ways, sometimes in major ways, affects how each of us approaches a canvas. My next canvas is not going to have, I lay things out very carefully. Everything is very methodical. My next canvas, I've made the decision, and I've done this in the past. Um, no tape, no measuring, no anything. Just hit the canvas. I know what I want to paint, and I'm just going to paint. I'm looking forward to it. It's a challenge. Haven't done it in a long time, and and I think the most important thing that will make my friend Heim very happy is that as soon as this one is finished, the next one goes up on the wall, and I start working. I think there's a continuity. There's something to getting it started
Yeah,
and continuing,
and
not taking a 2 year break.
and only not too long ago, I would have stopped you in the middle and say, "Okay, okay, I heard enough from you, and I heard enough about
Well,
that." But
look how
I
many canvases I've turned out since I did the first abstract. I've got one, two, three. This is what the fourth. Um, and we're going out today to buy canvases, and hopefully they get used up really quickly. I think that at this point, I just keep want to keep going, and if you fail, so what? Do another one or paint over it, and that's my objective at this particular time. Do
by the
something I
way,
haven't done.
I must say that remember I told you that you inspired me a little bit here and there. So it's just the beginning of something that I started thanks to you.
Very cool.
You know,
Very cool.
and it's of course it changed already, and it picked up the. I started with the. I borrowed that curve from you. So really,
and
what
and
I
that
did,
curve is really critical.
you know what? I didn't take it lightly. I borrowed that, if one can say that at all, that curve from you. So what I did exactly what I do when I do my house painting. Let's say I need to cut a straight line. I used to once cut a straight line and follow with my head like this, and now when I cut a straight line, I go like this. I'm not kidding you.
No
If I want
wonder
to make
people
a
want their
point,
money back when you paint a house.
thank you. When I want to
Wait a minute, that window was over
I
there,
want,
but you painted it on the side of the house.
I knew I had that coming. Knowing that I should have known better.
Where's the door now? We're turning
It's
a knob, but it's not attached to the door.
um, when I want to impress someone that works with me, I want to tell him, listen, when you do it right, you can even look away and do it. It will work. And he says,
I
but,
wouldn't advertise
but
your house painting skills as I don't look when I
and he
paint.
said, no, but you're supposed to paint the wall or the ceiling. You just tell me.
How come all my windows are painted red?
It's,
The glass.
it's rewarding. So what happened with the canvas when I saw the second one, the third one now that you're actually working on, and so your curve was going downward, and so I just borrowed it and I went it and I just kind of and I stopped only when there was not enough paint on the brush.
Right.
Then I stopped, kind of I let it fade away. That governed everything.
Well, what I charge to lend the curve to people, I think we're now financially even.
I owe you. I owe you.
You owe me money.
I'm counting on lunch today. Is that viable? Is that okay? Or maybe you want
It
to pay.
if you don't mind kibble
How
and
about
bits.
$100 towards Michael's? That would be helpful. What? What? I even took the friggin' two pieces. I drove it to the gallery
I
for
have to
you.
listen to this all the time. Every painting comes with grief.
So, okay, when are you going to snap out of the new things that you're doing? What you're doing is new.
Yeah,
The first one that you already sold, you did about a couple of years ago.
right,
The second one followed that with an image that wasn't belonging there, but we don't want to mention, which you're going to take care of
right,
because that's going to probably trigger a sale.
right.
And now you have the 48 by 48,
And
which
there was
is
the little one
the little one. And the
that's in the
little one,
Christmas
actually, you
show.
could have done better for the holiday show. I
It's a nice little painting.
wait. I had a conversation with Chris yesterday. I went to the
Yeah.
gallery, and I told him that I might have to bring another piece of yours there, and he agreed with
The
me.
little landscape would be beautiful to put in.
Yeah.
I have a
So when
beautiful
we
little
go and when we
landscape.
exchange cars, we'll take that and I'll
Okay,
bring it to him. I think it's
okay.
called for. I think you deserve a little more than just because also compared to the large scale abstract,
Yeah,
the small
it's
one.
very simple.
Yeah. But anyway, um, I have your best interest in my mind, so I follow accordingly. As you are since 20 years now, care about my progress and genuinely uh, um, eh, give from your time and energy and expertise and experience. I don't take it lightly. I appreciate it very
And I
much.
I have
And I
to say,
remember,
and I really enjoy it because it's very hard to have a dialogue for whatever unknown reason. The Hamptons of all places should be a place where artists are able to get together. There's certainly enough places available to be able to sit down and talk to. We're not asking for 100 people to show up, but it would be nice if 8 or 10 people got together maybe once a month. I mean, you and I have been talking about this for years, and people just will not commit to sitting down once in a while and just having an artist discussion. It would benefit everybody. And nobody seems to be willing to put in an hour of their time or an hour and a half of their time because the learning experience that we get, just you and I looking at each other's paintings or going into each other's studios, and this is very limited. It's just two people. Imagine if we expanded that to 8 or 10 people, where you can walk into studios and see really good artwork, and and have a discussion with somebody and say, "Why are you doing this?" or "What is your motivation behind that?" or see how they paint. It influences you in a very positive way. It's not, we don't have to hide what we're doing. If somebody's threatened by the fact that somebody else is doing a certain type of painting, then if they're threatened by it, then their level of security in what they do is not justified. If they think that it's so hard um, to knock somebody off, it's not. I mean, um, I just don't understand why we can't get half a dozen or a dozen people together. Maybe we have to send out formal invitations. And I would like to make one other comment um, to because my phone is constantly inundated with it, and we're talking about AI, what I call AI semi art. If you're going to use AI, and there is somebody on my phone that's doing AI, and it is spectacularly beautiful, but stop doing portraits and stop doing figures and stop doing landscapes with AI. It's not art. Anybody can buy a computer and a program and do this. You don't need any talent whatsoever. And to call it art and for people to review this stuff and say, oh, it's so beautiful, comes out of a machine. It
well,
doesn't take any talent.
good luck with
The
that.
programs are there.
It's too late for that.
It's the genie's out of the bag.
The second stage will be that people need to be taught how to intelligently use AI.
Correct. And there's one person on and I signed up for their site. I really enjoy their artwork, and it is artwork, and they're doing something totally different with it. And it's highly creative. It's beautiful to look at, and it's not a copy of a Degas or a Monet or somebody else's artwork. It's not a perfect drawing because computers will pick up something from a file someplace and draw a perfect portrait. It's not, it has no soul, it has no heart, and hopefully it's a fad that disappears very quickly because it's it's the word that comes to mind, it's sewage filling up the airwaves. It just doesn't belong there. If somebody is going to call themselves an artist and they're going to use AI, then use it to enhance the artwork that you're capable of doing. If you took your paintings or I took my paintings and we did certain things with AI to enhance it, that's different because the level that you're starting with is that we're both artists. Just to turn on a computer and put in an art program and look at all the different backgrounds and all the different faces and then just put them together doesn't take any talent. Push keys, that's it, and then hit print. So I wish those people would just disappear. And if I ever see a show, I would like to go up to the person and just say, do me a favor, do a drawing of a face for me right now. Can you do that? And I guarantee you they have no idea how to do it. They're not artists, they're technicians who are using a computer.
Yeah, but also in the same token, it's kind of almost a tricky question that people are bound to fail attempting to answer it. But in the same token, I remember when I'm a drummer. I think I'm a seasoned drummer, even though I don't practice for many years now. Practice. I have my recollections and thoughts. They serve as practicing. But when I sit, let's say, with all my background, my jazz background, I sit with a band. I would have my limitations. Let's say I don't mind playing giant steps, which is happens to be a pretty fast tune. If I turn to the band and say let's do giant steps, but I'm a little rusty, so let's be kind of friendly to each other, which I did once, and actually that was in the jam session at the burger place in Sag Harbor.
Right,
Remember that?
right. But
And
the
then it, and
difference
then
is,
it,
I mean, you can't. You're playing the drums, good, bad, or indifferent. You are playing the
Yeah,
drums.
but the point I was trying to make is that apropos, you're asking someone to draw a a portrait or whatever.
Whatever they're
Yeah,
doing,
but
I'm
so
asking them to do the real thing.
but the thing is, so they play, and it seemed like they said yes, but they forgot completely the fact that I just mentioned that I'm rusty, and they're really pushing me overboard, and they're challenging me, they're upsetting me, they're ridiculing me in the middle of playing jazz, and I am a jazz drummer. So I immediately switched to freestyle immediately, and I am so good at it. And when you have no clue about what I'm doing, you can be the most established musician and you will still be lost. And you will have to do something about it. Either stop, which you don't want to stop because it's a performance, or ask for mercy for you to switch back to jazz, to real traditional. So they looking at me and all this, and I said, I play, I do my freestyle, and I said, I told you to slow down, and you just, I don't know. So they slowed down, and then I went back to traditional. Then they forgot all about it, and they went and they did their thing, and then I did my thing. And what it proved is that when someone tells me, for example, that he or she are better than me when it comes to certain things, I always answer, and I have at least 50 different things that you know nothing about that I know a lot about. So that's not the point. The point is, if you want to express, by the way, all the realistic painters, giants, always found it very challenging to do abstract expressionism. Always had more difficulties than any other style that they were skilled in executing when they dealt with freestyle, with freedom, with openness, with abstract. They always struggled to no end with this. You have to agree with me, especially the Kooning. When
See, I love it because
the Kooning
it's
was of course, it's a no-brainer. He was a great painter. Period. I mean, you don't have to sit and pause and think whether he was or wasn't. Of course, he was, but he toiled and struggled when we came to his abstract pieces so much, and he mentioned it and talked about it a lot. So it's all in the eye of the beholder, and but in addition to that, just enough goodwill in place will serve as an answer, don't you think?
I would make two comments. One, when it comes to whether it's drumming, you can get an electronic piano like William has, and you can hit a couple of buttons and it'll play drums. You don't have to even touch the keyboard. It just plays it. It'll give you the background beat or more complicated beat, whatever it is. To me, doing abstract paintings is simply a continuation. They're a fundamental, or it's the way I was taught, the way I grew up. There's some certain fundamental rules to painting and sculpture, certain fundamental rules that you can put into a primitive, you can put into a uh, any style painting whatsoever, landscape, um, portraits. Doesn't make any difference what the subject matter is. There's certain rules that are followed. And if you look at historical art throughout the ages, those rules for anybody that really knew what they were doing with painting have always been followed. It's like a code. It's not a code of ethics. It's a code that's used in painting so that whether it's Warhol doing it, or it's Rembrandt doing it, or it's Picasso doing it, or Chagall doing it, whoever's doing it, those codes go into everybody's artwork. There's certain things that are done. You don't take, it's like the worst thing you could do in the codes that I was taught is take a large white canvas, put a red dot right in the middle, and call it art. What does your eye go to? It goes to the red dot. Then what? It's done. It's over with.
But it's not open for discussion.
It's
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 not
not
open
open for
because
discussion
it's.
because artists who know what they're doing, it's just built into their DNA. Every time they approach a canvas or a piece of sculpture, or whatever it is, those rules, it's not a written formula or anything, but they know that there are certain things instinctively and intuitively that go into any painting, no matter what the subject matter is or what the style is.
But those who painted huge blobs of black over huge canvases and they're sold for millions, it's not accidental. It's not
No, I
with
mean, Ed
after
Reinhardt did
yeah, I
something,
know, I know, I know. But before we go to Ed Reinhardt, he was a little more sophisticated than just someone who created and more intentional and more detail oriented. But I'm talking about someone who's climbing a ladder and he has like a 9 by 12 and he's
right?
painting black all over the place and he make it look like he's creating a real painting and he's and then when you see the zoom in into his face and his face expression, it's amazing how he keeps that straight face as if he's really creating a painting with 30 different colors. It's not accidental that that much money is paid for it because their greatness was in the fact that they could hold their own and keep that steadiness and keep that, I don't know want to call it stubbornness, consistency, devotion, whatever it is word you want to choose, throughout the process. And also they did it in times where it was alien to people it was unheard of. So and the drip and the splatter by Pollock was more the honest and the surprise by the community on how can someone choose that kind of technique, pull through with the technique, deliver finished paintings, and on top of all this, the lack of understanding of the big crowds, eh, especially those that know a thing or two about art. Even they were that dumbfounded in the face of it.
It'll be
Not
in,
because they thought that they cannot do it,
I
it's
would
because
I
they
would
because they knew, because they couldn't think that it's possible. It never entered their mind. It wasn't never an option. And even if it was an option, they realized that after all, you need some kind of skills to make it happen.
it'll be interesting to see because it's too early what happens to Warhol, etc. I'm using Warhol as an example because the name is so well known. Rothko, other people who went into abstract art, how their work holds up hundreds of years from now, and how the legitimacy of the art that was produced holds up. We don't know. It's much too early. Um, there are certain people who attempted to do certain things and it's already vanished from the marketplace or from sight because it didn't work. You can't fool the people to such a degree uh, that you can have a factory of people sitting at canvases. It's like the Chinese, the way they produce things. You know, somebody does a brushstroke, and then it goes to somebody else, and they do another brushstroke. By the time it gets down to the 40th person, it's a bird in the sky with clouds. It's mass produced. And every painting that comes along that's assembly line is the same thing. It's not painting. If you go into TJ Maxx and you look at what's called art in the back, it's not artwork. First of all, my advice to people who are going to places like TJ Maxx, Marshalls, etc., do not buy anything that's considered artwork because the Chinese produce it through a form of child slavery. And if you buy it, you're encouraging that, you're permitting that, you're paying for it. And that's how they can turn out a huge canvas for $99. And the things that go into the production of that work are absolutely despicable. And if it comes off the market, if Trump gets it off the market and puts a tariff on it so it's no longer $99, it's now $999, and those children are no longer sitting for 12 hours a day mass producing this stuff, that's a great accomplishment because that's how they compete with this country. If it's made here and it's made by artists doing it, and the salaries that they get are a living salary. I had a conversation with a doctor yesterday, and I said, there are no doctors out here anymore. And he said, nobody can afford to live out here. He said, it's become impossible to get anybody out here. And that's really a horrible situation because we all know that healthcare is critical to all of us. The general population of this country has grown older, which means we need more doctors in the geriatric area, and we don't have it. And it's because the cost of living, the cost of food, the cost of everything essentially makes it impossible for a doctor who wants to commute 3 or 4 hours to the office and then back home again. You can't hire secretaries. There's no place. I mean, I met a doctor the other day. She was great. I said, where are you living? She said, home. I would like to have a family. I'd like to meet somebody and get married. I'd like to raise kids. I'm living at home because it's the only place I can stay where I can afford to
But
be
it's
a
nothing
doctor.
new. It's been like that for
It's
20, 30 years. We're talking
it's
about the same
gotten to the
things.
point where unless you bought a house out here 20 years ago, you can't buy a house today unless you
It's
have a
the
lot of
same
money.
problem. I'm telling you. I arrived here in 1983, and it's the same thing.
Right.
They're always worried about the employers, about
But
what the employees,
it's
and then
gotten a
they
lot
rented big
worse.
houses. And then they let them use the houses. They deduct it from their pays, and the town is doing actually a pretty good job in having the affordable housing and all this. But it's the same all over again. Nothing has changed. This prestigious reality that's unfolding here, that happens to be expensive, was not invented today.
No, it wasn't
And
invented
there
today.
are, there
It's
are
just
answers.
gotten
People
worse.
people are migrating to Hampton Bays and to Riverhead and all
The
this, and
Hampton
it's,
Bays is not any less expensive
yeah,
anymore than
I
it
know,
used to be than
because of
here.
the demand, of course.
Right.
But
But going back to artwork, when you go into the studio and you paint, there's a progression to your paintings over the years that things change. When you keep painting the same thing over and over and over again, that's not learning, that's not progressing, that's not being
that's
challenged.
perfecting in more ways than one. You perfect you.
You perfect it
If
up
it's
to
a
a
part
certain
of your
point.
technique, if it's one ingredient of your technique, if it's what it's all about, it's not. It's up to no
If
good.
I'm not challenged by the painting that I'm working on, and this one is certainly challenging me because I've set certain rules and guidelines for it, certain colors I can't use, certain things I can't do that I've always done in the past that made it really easier to do. Not easy, but easier to do. So when I set out and I change the rules, and if you stop by, you'll see it puts you in a different arena of painting because the things that you instinctively want to do, I'm not allowing myself to do. So that my palette is different, my designs are different, my concept is different, and I have to work within that. Is it challenging? Sure, it's challenging. But who wants something that's boring? You can't have anything you can't be enthusiastic of it if you're doing a painting um, or any art media. You can't do anything that's boring because you halfway through you go, why am I going to bother to even finish this? I'm bored to death with it. Let's go on to something else. And I mean, last night I cleaned up all my brushes. I put everything away. Went back into the studio to look. An hour later, I finally got back upstairs because there is no such thing as just walking into the studio and taking a
No,
look.
there isn't. There isn't. And the same with me. I was, I showed you that painting I studied. It's something a little new for me, so I I got to the point to where I thought I did a lot, and I thought that this is also made more ways than one an accomplished painting. I can just leave it alone. But of course, I knew better that it's not. But yesterday, when I went in, I said, no matter what, I came to the studio and I said, I'm not going to do any painting. I got other things to do. I got to tidy up, I got to prepare other canvases. But I said to myself in the back of my mind, if I was to find myself after all painting, then I know exactly what I'm going to be doing. So that gave me some comfort. And indeed, of course, I felt like I'm going to paint. There's no way.
If
I
I open the
immediately, so
door,
because it
right.
was pre-planned, this particular thing. In case you are, then prepare yourself to what it is, so you don't have to wonder. You don't have to make mistakes. You don't have to end up doing things you didn't plan and didn't necessarily work for you or for the painting. I knew exactly. It took that little touch of one third of an inch flat, wide, very very sharp, that you can create those straight line instead of using the pointy brush, that you can go like sideways. And I went for 1 hour of concentration, following pre-existing lines, enhancing and adding features that will serve as a background, will serve as shadows without creating a shadow, just because you add another line that is in certain proximity to the existing line. And it was just a whole puzzle that was, because I made that decision ahead of time, it also helped me without me knowing that it's doing it for me, to establish what the skeleton looks like and what the skeleton is all about. So suddenly I'm having like this image in front of my mind that I wasn't responsible for its creation, that served as a guideline. It was unbelievable. So in 1 hour, I did a 5 hour work in 1 hour,
Right.
because I was ready and knew what I'm going to do in case I would find the desire will find me and force me to do that. And the fact that uh, happily surprised to realize that Mother Nature is helping me and aiding me, because it gives me an image to follow. Something like that. I mean, people, the average Joe out there would not be able to relate to what I'm saying, not because they're not smart enough, it's because they don't know enough about painting in studio and these ordeals to understand what it really means on the surface. I mean, even when I approach people and say, um, because I'm close to you and because I'm your good friend, I take I give myself permission to lecture you a little bit, and I know that you're not going to take it as a insult or something.
Right.
Or what is he talking about? So I'm telling you, it's time to change. And if you want me to volunteer and to offer you what the nature of this change is all about, I'll be more than happy. So that means I don't go into already describing him or her what I think the change is all about and what its nature is all about. I'm just pointing out. And then if you have a friend or an artist that happens to be talented and all this, and young, let's say late 20s, and then you say, uh, I know that in the back of your mind you say, well, I have time. Let me explore more what that which is my style is now and what I'm all about. And I come and I say, no, you're wrong. You're wrong. And why would I share that with you? Is because I was on your end once, with no help, no refuge, no suggestions, no mentorships, no goodwill and or capability on behalf of anyone, or any desire on behalf of anyone to volunteer help. Tell me, I didn't know better. I couldn't know better. There
It
was no
was
way for
interesting.
me to know better.
You just said something that's very interesting. I hadn't thought about it. I have not had anybody since the '60s, and I started working on my paintings, ever come into a studio and help somebody um, that I would consider um, capable. The dialogue you and I have is to help each of us grow. For somebody to come in, and it's not in that sense, for somebody to come in and possibly it might be the wrong word, critique or say, look, these are things that you could do. You're doing things that you learned in the 60s. It's time to do things in 2024 and 25 that has changed from the 60s. This is how you break the mold of doing what you've done. Nobody has come along and done that. However, when you look at the body of work from the different styles that I've done and the different ways, whether it's oils and the early surrealistic paintings, and there's some really good surrealistic paintings that I did, and then into the what I call the primitives, and then into the landscapes. I taught myself each one of those styles, which is totally different from the previous one. It's like going from it's like going from a Volkswagen Beetle to a Porsche Cayenne. You know, you have 35 horsepower in this car and you're happy with it. And then suddenly you get into a car that's got 800 horsepower and you go, wow, this is really different. And then you go from that to something else. And that sort of has been the transition of going from one style to something else that's drastically different. And the only thing that has been able to allow me to do that is the fact that um, the education that I got, whether it was at Skowhegan or BU or at Delphi or Post or wherever it was, gave me that foundation that allows you to do anything you're working on because the basics are always there. The style could be anything. It doesn't make any difference. The basic way of applying paint and preparing the paint and the canvas and everything else is all the same. The imagery is what comes out of your mind. And as long as you're coming up with new things, as long as you're thinking of, I have no problem, as you know, just saying, okay, I'm done with my abstracts. I'm not going to do any more abstracts. What's next? I don't know, but it's going to be something completely different. And I have the
Yeah, it's
groundwork
called
to be able to do
nothingness.
it.
When it comes to listen, don't take it for granted with you because you have an advantage that serves you sometimes as a disadvantage. You know what it is? I'll tell you what it is. Are you willing to hear, or you
Sure, I'm
giving?
always willing to hear. I
Are
might
you sure
kill
you
you,
want to
but
hear?
I'm willing to hear.
Can I continue?
Sure.
Shall I proceed?
Uh,
Shall I follow through?
Should I leave
Shall
the
I?
room?
You sure it's okay with you?
It's fine with
Does
me.
it work for you?
Audience, do we need a vote on this?
Okay. So shall I proceed?
Hold on.
Wait a second. Be careful. You might not be able to recover from this. Anyway, so that which serves as a source of inspiration and advantage can end up being a disadvantage, and that's you walking on a very fragile, re-established line that once you're on it, it's it's you and God and you. You know what I mean? And it's to say the least wonderful and formidable and impressive. But in the same token, you can find out after the fact that you're off the line and things are not working psychologically, emotionally,
Well,
things
I
like that.
absolutely agree with
Yeah, yeah.
you.
Well, wait. But then the thing is, so in don't you think that the artistic process and the evolutionary process is already carving the path for us for additional um, um, mediums of creation? Let's say it should be a given that any artist should be a poet, should hear the poetry, should look for the poetry that being involved in painting paintings provides you with, allows you to, maybe creates that infrastructure for you. I
Can I
always have the
change? Can I
feeling,
change poetry to one of the things,
oh, well,
and
music,
it fits into it?
melodies,
Music,
harmonies. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
harmonies.
Yeah, no, I was just about to reach that also, because the melody, and you don't have to be someone who knows anything about this medium, whether it's poetry, You know what writing poems is all about.
Right.
You know what poems are.
Right.
When you see a poem, you can tell it's a poem, but it doesn't mean that you never tested yourself, you never tried. But uh, we talked here in the past, you and I, about the establishment that fails miserably, actually. Not throughout, but whatever it fails in is miserably. They're super successful in failing, in being able to communicate with the people that at their mercy. 80 out of 10,000 to be chosen for a faculty, for routine in college, in universities, in establishments, and then you have 9,920 that are abandoned. Um, there's no level of intimacy, even though it's wishful thinking. No level of intimacy to have conversations or to send a letter to all of those who were rejected, that to make them aware that they're loved, they're treasured, and that they can still nevertheless achieve all the things that they were hoping to achieve if they were to be accepted to these establishments. And that's coming from the professor, from the faculty, from those who run this whole concept that this becomes so attractive and so popular. You know what I mean? Complete miserable abandonment of huge portion of the community, of the young generation that wants to take part in it. Now, you know what? You might think it's a lot of work, but once you break into it, it becomes second nature immediately. You have to take under consideration that just because if you're going to ignore those who were not accepted to your faculty, you literally pushing them away from any viable option for them to be active and still pursue like literally hands-on painting, whatever it is, as opposed to as opposed to uh, uh, let's just say I applied to Tisch School of Art in 1988. Okay, and I think it was cinema, movies, whatever it was, and it was pathetic. I know I wasn't ready. I really wasn't ready. I submitted. I got letters of recommendations, everything, the whole character, this, that. I submitted some footage that I did. It was pathetic. Okay, I admit. But the distance between me being pathetic because I wasn't capable technically and I was too young, to the fact that actually someone out there should take a minute and say, listen, according to what I see here, it's a no go. But I will give you 5 minutes of my time and I'll tell you how precious you are. That I already identified that and I can see that and I want to share that with you. And I don't want you to think that this is pep talk and this is just like, so just so I can feel better about it. I really mean it. Go do your thing because nobody and nothing in the world can stop you. Nothing. Nothing is designed there to serve as your obstacle except your mind or except whatever it is that you personally choose to stand in your way. Go do your thing. And to come back and try again to be accepted, if you still find this outfit attractive, they will cater to your needs, then great. You can do it 100 times. Nothing can stop you. Listen to me. We love you. We care about you. Go on your merry way and good luck. That's it.
See,
Sometimes that's all that
I
what
think
people need
that
to hear.
for you and for me, within this little circle between the two of us, the challenge would be if I said to you, okay, I don't want you to do an abstract. I would like your next painting to be a landscape, a fairly realistic landscape, and incorporate into that landscape a lot of your abstract elements. For me, the challenge would be to do an abstract
With the
that's
realistic elements.
with realistic elements can be incorporated into it, but nothing other than a brush. This is the limitation. Nothing other than my brushes and my paints. No tape, no rulers, no measurements, no no distinct angles, corners, lines, or anything like that, which is what I'm planning on doing. If it succeeds, it'll be really interesting. If it doesn't succeed, it doesn't succeed. So what? if we don't challenge ourselves on a regular basis, it gets monotonous. I don't want to do another abstract after this one in the same genre that I'm doing this one because it still fits into what I've been doing. It's just very different in its palette, it's different in its design. Now I want to take it to a step where it's really, really different. And that's going to be a challenge. And there would be the same thing for you if I told you, um, go down to Beach Lane and paint the road going down to the ocean with the trees along the ocean horizon line and the fence and that sort of thing. Do that as you're painting and incorporate your abstract qualities into the sky, into the leaves. It could be beautiful, absolutely beautiful, but you also have to put some structure into it and some perspective into it. And it's going to be just as much of a challenge for you as it is for me to go the opposite way and not do all those things. And I think that it would be good for both of us. It's getting out of the confines that we have set for ourselves and that we're comfortable with. Soon as you get comfortable with something that you're doing, you should move on to make it uncomfortable to do something. And if you, I mean, there was one landscape that I did, and I think you know, um, which I literally, the painting took on a life of its own, and the painting and I had an argument every day I walked into the studio, and I would just look at the painting and say, "You're not going to win. I'm supposed to be in control of this. Um, I've got to get this to look the way I want it to look, and you can't tell me as the painting, as the thing that's being created and taking on its own life, that I'm not going to get what I want because I'm the one putting the stuff on the canvas, and you're telling me I can't get what I want." And it took me 7 times to paint the clouds until I finally sat back one day and I
Seven.
said,
You
"Seven,
mean
there are
seven
seven
T?
different
There's
clouds.
seven T.
Seven,
Seven
seven
T.
complete skies
Yes.
underneath
No,
the
no, you
final
forgot a
one."
zero.
And when you pick
Let's
up that,
call Lenore. Let's see what she has to say about that.
Lenore knows because
Yeah, I know.
she
Yeah,
used to hear me
that's why I said
swearing.
zero. According to what Lenore
Yeah,
told me, it's 7-0.
and I'd walk into the studio and start swearing at the canvas and say, "You're not going to win. You know, I'm the artist here. You're the canvas here. I'm in charge of this." And I'd finish painting for 3 hours and look at it and go, "The damn thing's not what I want." And the
No.
process, the process that I went through.
Yeah.
You don't know what you have until you've got another, at least another 100 layers on it. You think you have control of it, and then you look at it and you go, "That's not what I wanted." So I'll try again tomorrow. And eventually I won. And it turned out to be
Yeah.
beautiful. But the canvas weighs like 8,000 pounds because it's got 4 gallons of varnish on it. But that's how you persist. And that's you don't walk away from and say, "Okay, the canvas won. I'm giving up."
Well,
You persist.
let me just mention, we're sitting here with Steve Rom on Friday morning, Friday the 13th, and he's
Friday the
still
13th.
intact. He's not, I thought he's going to fall apart because of the number
If I had
13.
known, I wouldn't have come out today.
And now I put my glasses. Unfortunately, Sunday I got shocked by seeing exactly who's sitting in front of me.
Wait a minute. Let me take mine off.
So I'm this is what I'm willing to sacrifice. All this abuse that I take from you just by looking at you.
he assumes it's abuse. He has no idea how lucky he
Listen,
is.
it's a very constructive abuse. Okay, how about that? Is that good?
Yes.
Okay.
And it goes both ways.
Because both ways, thank you. No, now that you started painting, I the other day I got this message from you when you say thank you, and it was thanks to you and the inspiration, all this, and I said, oh my God, wait a second. I went like,
I was on drugs that day.
I said the drugs. Um, pleasantly surprised and happily with the feeling of being rewarded. That
It was
I
honest.
never thought that I would live to see the day that indeed this is this kind of a notch up of kind of interaction and communication between us regarding hands-on painting. I always wanted to live to see you, and believe me, it's going to increase and increase and increase. This is not going to be just like where it is. You know how it is. There's nothing can stop this kind of progression.
Right.
You know, and I'm telling you, when I'm in my studio, I realize that my mental strength is mainly due to how I handle myself, the buildup of my mental strength, which I consider myself to have. Uh, Quite above the average of that kind of capabilities, comes from the studio, comes from finding myself in my studio efficient, coherent, effective, creative, common sense and logic rules in the midst of an ocean of emotions. You know what I mean? It's just unbelievable. So I'm suddenly I'm kind of in the midst of an ongoing eternal enlightenment. There's another enlightenment. You know what I mean? That is like independent and intimate. So it's fantastic feeling. Now, in the same token, I'm thinking this can be everybody's lunch. This can be everybody's necessity to drink water. Did you follow what I'm saying? This is not unique to you and I because we happen to be good artists and other people don't know how to hold a pencil in their hands. Has nothing to do with the other. And by the way, that red dot in the center of the canvas, we cannot fail to think that it should or shouldn't, is or isn't. It's the level of courage and that leads to bravery, that leads to a level of conviction that you have to make these decisions. That's why they say there's no such thing, you cannot make up your mind. There's, there's no such thing having a hard time making a decision. It doesn't exist. This reality doesn't exist. Because in order to decide to be something that happens to be something that you're not, you have to make a decision for that to happen. So it's an ongoing series of decisions that are taking place in order to decide not to make a decision. Do you follow what I'm
I
saying?
understand.
This applies to everything. So that's why when I worked in Project Post with second graders, first graders, third
Right.
graders, I told them I will prove to you that there's no such thing. I'm having a hard time making up my mind. And when I brought the 1,000 tubes of paint and I threw it to the floor and I said, okay, let's pick up all the blues, all the colors that are related somehow directly and indirectly to blues. And they were doing exactly that. I was doing the opposite.
Right.
I was suddenly going for the red and the black. But then they said, but you said blues. I said, you do what you understand out of it. I'll do what I understand out of it. Yeah. And then I stopped everyone. And then I kept on saying, okay, oh, maybe I should take this red. Oh no, I don't the red. Let me get that brown. No, that. And I asked them, what do you see? What do you understand from this situation? Everybody said in one voice, it seems like it's someone who having a hard time to make up his mind. So I said, what does it take for that to happen? I'm asking you now.
Right.
What does it take for that to happen? For someone to have a real hard time to make up his mind or her mind? What does it really take? The essence of it all.
Only thing I
One
can think,
sentence. One sentence.
lack of knowledge.
It's not a negative. It's a positive. I'll help you. I'll make it easier. It takes constant decisions taking place for that to happen. To having a hard time to make up your mind and make a decision, you have to have constant decision making process ongoingly
Every
to
brushstroke.
end up
But Haim,
up not being able supposedly to make up
every
your mind.
brushstroke is a decision. The one thing I wanted to add before we end the show is that I've seen a lot of people recently putting photographs of their studios on Facebook or whatever it is that they put their studios on and how proud they are of their studios. I have to tell you, the most irrelevant part of creating a piece of artwork is the studio. I have had huge studios. I have had beautiful studios. I've had studios the size of this room, and out of this room came huge paintings and stuff that would have come out of any size studio, no matter what size it was. It wouldn't have made any difference. The studio is irrelevant. It's not something that makes your painting better or worse. It's just there. It holds your paints, it holds your palette, it holds your colors, and it has, if it's got a wall, that's where you put your canvas. Other than that, who cares what your studio looks like?
Yes, I'll end up by saying when you're an atheist, you have to believe not to believe.
I mean,
You
I,
you
I've
have,
been in your
but,
studio,
but
and you know, do you have to get around things? There's a wall. You work on that wall. You create on that wall. Your paints are nearby. You're organized. I have a small room. My paints are on one side, my palette and
when I don't
brushes on
work,
the other
I
side.
don't work. But when I work in front of the easel, I work in front of the easel. It's like your
Right.
room. It's
And
like
who
I don't see to my left and see that I have
and
space.
who cares
I,
what the
but
studio
but
is like?
but let's try and summarize and conclude. As an atheist that don't believe in God, you have to believe in that you don't believe in God.
Believe in a creative
Wait, wait,
force.
wait, wait. No, I'm just saying an atheist. It can be anything else.
Okay.
So that means if you don't believe in God and it takes you believing in the fact that you don't believe in God, then you cannot call yourself an atheist. You have to believe that you're not a believer. So once you believe that you're not a believer, you're a believer. It's just
It makes
there's
it
no
you're making it too
no
complicated.
no.
It's
It's not.
very
It's not. No, it's
it's
not. It's not. It's not. It's not. That means if I want to make up my mind, I'm done with it. I cannot make decisions. I don't want to. I've had it. I'm not gonna just. It's not gonna happen. And I say, okay, this is what I like. These glasses, they're 500. I like it. I'll put it in my pocket. Okay, as opposed to sorting through 500 to find the one that I want. The more I show that I have a hard time making up my mind, the more making up my mind constantly that I have to go
I'll
through
I'll
in
su-
order to achieve that.
I'll sum it up for you. Nothing is more consistent than change.
That's true, but what does that have to do with what we're talking?
It has to do with everything. It has to do with your belief in God. It has to do with your belief in what you're creating. It has to do with your belief every morning that you get up as to what you're going to do that day, whether you're going to paint, house paint, take care of children, run errands or whatever it is. These are decisions that are made every day, and nothing is more consistent than change.
No, we are all creatures of habit. Then, therefore, we're all bound to become addicts. You can say that
You
also.
have to
Creatures
constantly
of
I
habit
think
will create addicts.
you have to constantly change your pattern and not be an addict.
But the thing is, there's no way around it. We're bound to become our addicts inevitably because we are creatures of habit by definition.
I disagree. You can change your pattern every single
Yeah,
day
yeah,
and do
you can
something
change
differently.
in order to get into a different habit. So then you get to a habit
It's
that
only a
excludes
habit.
habits.
It's only a habit when it becomes repetitive and
I-
consistent.
It's by
Then it's a
default.
habit.
It's by default. It's not like we decide to. This is the way it is. So
Simple question. When you get up in the morning, what shoe do you put on first?
I don't put shoes at all.
Sneakers.
I don't.
Well, you put something on your feet.
I don't. Well, the Kabbalah says you have to do with the left, meaning you do this. You put the left and the right, then you tie the right, and then you tie the left.
Why? Why can't you
Well,
do it
if
the
you
other
have
way?
like 5 hours, maybe I can
Okay.
explain to you. But anyway, listen, we're actually running out of time.
Okay.
Anyway,
And we have errands. We have places to
I
go and
cannot make up
places
my
to
mind
be.
here whether I cannot make up the decision here whether I like this interview or not, whether I'm happy that you're here or not. But let's just say that I'm going to force myself to say how lovely it is to see you. And we have 30 seconds. We're going to be here tomorrow as much as we were here yesterday and as much as we were here this morning. July, the December 13th, year 2024, on a Friday here with the Hello Hello Show. Thank you. Thank you so much, Steve. We love you. We care about you, and we thank you.
And have a good July.
Wonderful. Have a good July.
Go to the beach.